Please welcome RSPA General Counsel Bob Goldberg.
Wasn't that great? Did you all enjoy that? I have to say, I'm so excited to be at Retail Now. I enjoy this more than anything every year. You know, coming to Las Vegas is really special. We're going to talk about the potholes on the superhighway to success. I didn't drive here. I took an airplane here like most of you. And I got on the airplane and I went to my favorite seat for the 4-hour flight, 20C. It's an exit row. It's on the aisle. And I sat down next to this very attractive young lady, and I turned to her and I said, "Is this the airline that charges extra to sit next to good-looking men?" And she said, "It is." I declined. It was just a difficult trip, okay? And for the rental industry of dresses that we just heard about, you know, this city's been renting the women for years. I don't think it's been growing that fast. Let's get to work. I only have 45 minutes, and then we're going to go to the trade show floor, but let's share some ideas and things. First thing I want you to get, if nothing more, is my email address and my phone number. You have the ability as an RSPA member to call me at any time with any question you have regarding your business, regarding the documents you need for your business, regarding questions about customers. Those legal issues I love. I have a great day when I hear from one of you or more, and I'm able to help you with what's going on in your business. So if you get my email address and my phone number, you're already ahead of the game for coming to Retail Now. Now, you know, they say, and we heard this morning a number of times, that what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. Well, I hope that's not true. I hope you take some of these nuggets back. I loved Garcia this morning. It was interesting. I do some things on negotiation as well. And Bill talked about going and buying a car the day before Thanksgiving. And I thought, now that, I go the end of the month. I go right the last week of the month, and the first thing I do when I get to the dealership is ask where the restroom is. And the reason you ask where the restroom is because it usually shares the plumbing with the employee lounge. And typically in the employee lounge is where they have the scorecard for the salespeople as to what they've done that month. And I want to see that and find out who's doing absolutely the worst, and then come out and say, I'm here to see them. Okay? But we all have our little tidbits, and we'll pick them up and we'll continue. As you've seen already, we're talking about realignment, we're talking about reuniting, we're talking about re-engaging. But even more important than that, we should be rejoicing to be here at Retail Now, greatest country in the world, and we are very fortunate to be here and learn today. Let's talk about realigning. Why do we have to do that? When you go out on the floor in a half hour or so, the technology that's changing is so fast and so difficult to keep up with. If we're not at the cutting edge of that, if we're not learning the latest applications, the latest software, the latest solutions, we're going to be lost very, very quickly. It's important that we keep up with that. Equipment these days no longer is that important. Equipment is just the means to process everything we're doing and how we're looking at it. You know, when back in the days, and Reichert and I have been around a long time, over 40 years, and I can say this, you were a Suita dealer, you were a DTS dealer, you were a Sharp dealer. That's how you were identified in many of these meetings. Not anymore, though. It has to be your company that is the solution provider. The farther we can get from identifying specifically with our suppliers, the greater our independence, the greater our success, and the greater control we have over our businesses. Now, what are the dominant forces we're dealing with? And we'll look at some of these a little bit closer. We got the card companies, we got the council, we got EMV, we have Congress, which you can sort of forget about. You know, they're now going from health care to the tax laws, and really a lot's not going to get done in our sector, or a lot being done that's going to affect us any longer. But these are the things that are an influence. If I had put that up 10 years earlier, the important thing would have been who your supplier was, your customers, or other things that were putting additional pressure on. Now we're the trusted advisors. The consolidation in the industry is going to continue. There's absolutely no question about that. People are looking for efficiencies to make profits. It's harder to grow sales. It's easier to cut costs. You bring consolidation together. You eliminate certain positions. You eliminate competition in certain situations, and you can grow and you can be better. So let's look at what we've done. I'm a passionate guy. Now, that's not my wife speaking. It's about my career. I'm a passionate guy, okay? And some people think my passion gets ahead of me. Last year, you may recall, I was somewhat outraged. I was outraged that we were being, as resellers, being forced to absorb a financial shift in liability for security in payment processing. And it was done what I called in the name of security. They were saying, because we need to be more secure, this is what we have to do, and we're going to shift the liability over to the reseller end, and we have a lot of means to do that and accomplish that. This year, I'm not outraged. This year, I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic because we've done a number of things. We came out with a position paper at RSPA called In the Name of Security. Now, none of you saw it. It went about 8 pages, and it talked about what the status of the industry was and how unfair it might be to certain segments of the industry, and from my perspective, to the reseller segment, and how perhaps it was time that Congress stepped in and Congress looked at the situation and helped to level the playing field for everyone. Well, we took this in the name of security and we floated it to some sister organizations, associations that had similar views and similar things that they were concerned about as well. And then, as you've heard, we had a meeting with the PCI Council. And I can't thank enough Mike Seymour, Hunter Allen, Henry Hegelson. I can't thank these people enough for stepping forward. And now Mike and Hunter are there in the trenches, people, talking to the council directly and helping them understand how the things they're implementing are affecting the marketplace and how they can be corrected. I am optimistic. We heard on the panel from the PCI, they're out on the floor. The relationship is growing stronger, and we will have some very concrete results, I hope, during this coming year. EMV, we've got work to do there. We need chip and pin. It's just going chip wasn't quite enough, and why should we be the exception in the world? And I think we still have work to do there. The card brands, they're scared. Card brands are scared? Bob, what are you talking about? Well, the antitrust laws are creeping up on them. The antitrust laws say that Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and Amex can't get together and restrain competition or restrain the marketplace. There have been a number of lawsuits that have alleged this, so each of them are working very independently, going very much their separate ways. For years, they had done it through the council. Who created the council? I'm not here to preach antitrust, but we are seeing that they are in their little cocoons as well, and very reluctant to talk about some of these issues, and certainly won't talk together. But overtures have been made, overtures have been accepted, where we've been able to meet with these people, speak with them, and help in the name of security to help make our system more secure, not with punishment, but with carrots, and that will grow as well. I'm a little concerned. For some of us, it's interesting. Visa has a program that they announced that they want people to go, stores, merchants, to go cashless. No more cash in the business. And there's about 4 or 5 places in Chicago area where I live where you can't use cash. Now, I talked to Mark Olson this morning. I said, Mark, what's that mean for you, buddy? You know, you and Reichard have been fighting for years, cash versus credit. And Bob Bauer was standing there and says, Bob, as long as the IRS is around collecting money based on sales, there will always be cash sales at some stores. And that rung very true for me. But there's 50 restaurants that they're giving $10,000 with to upgrade their systems to go to debit card, credit card, or just a phone application to pay. So there's the trend. Now, where do you realign to go along with that? That's where you begin to look and say, boy, where's that list of those 50 restaurants? They're all upgrading, they got cash to do it. I want to help them and go out and do that. That is a possibility, that's where they are. But things are changing in that line as well. We have the regulators we talked about. I'm not too concerned about what the regulators are doing these days. You see the Federal Trade Commission was having an investigation regarding some of the security requirements. They have been educated. There's a big change in personnel, change in Congress, change in administrations. Things are slowing down in that area and not happening as quickly, obviously. The suppliers continue with the consolidation. That means new leadership, that means new management, that means new policies, and things have changed drastically in some of those areas. I get lots of calls from micros dealers, I get lots of calls from NCR dealers, I get lots of calls from others as well. Those things are changing, and it's going to be all the more important for you to realign and go forward. Now, here's what the banks and banks particularly, have sent out to their merchants. This is just direct questions I took out of the letter that went to merchants that were using their systems. And these were the questions they ask the merchant to ask the reseller when they're evaluating a system, thinking of getting into a relationship with somebody. Number one, is the vendor QIR certified? Now, RSPA strongly believes in education and best practices, and you're here today to get those and for the next couple of days. Now, but they send you to the list, and if you're not on that list, you'll see what they suggest you do. Does the agreement require the vendor to maintain PCI compliance? Now, if you use the RSPA templates, those templates do not provide that you are responsible for PCI compliance. PCI compliance is not just the installer's obligation, but also the merchant's as well. It's not just cut and dry, black and white. But if they look at our agreements, we're not. And there's legal reasons why you do not want to take total responsibility for PCI compliance. Does the vendor require remote access? Well, you heard during the data security, that's our weak spot, folks, and that's somewhere where each and every one of you should be concentrating to assure you're using the very best practices, that your remote accessibility to a system isn't a vulnerable spot. If you're not using two-factor authentication, if you're not changing passwords regularly, if you don't have different passwords for each of your accounts, you're not using best standards. When I get the call and there's been a breach and they say that they believe that it's due to your remote access, your PCI login, whatever it's going to be, that's a vulnerability that I have a great deal of difficulty defending you against. I could try to find other factors that went into it, but that's where you're not using your best practices. Does the vendor use multi-factor authentication? We talked about that. Does the vendor agree in a forensic audit? You heard them. They were sitting on those high chairs right here, and he said, we're the policemen. When there's a breach, we come in, and the first thing we do is stabilize the situation. And that is the first thing that needs to be done. And typically, you're going to be part of that stabilization process. But at some point after the system's stabilized and people start looking into what the root cause of the alleged breach was, the parties sort of they go in different directions. And why is that? Because there's different liabilities for each party. So they want you to be totally responsible and cooperative in a forensic audit. Then they go on and say, well, and you better have cyber insurance. Well, what does that have to do with an installation? You know, what that has to do is we're looking for a deep pocket if something goes wrong. And will the vendor help you with notification in the event of a breach? That's another one of those issues that is critical. States, federal, all have notification requirements. Some of them have to be done in 48 hours. It's a very difficult, complex process, and they're asking those questions. These banks are saying to their merchant customers, if any one of these questions is answered no, you have to look elsewhere. So I think what we have to concentrate on here is having responses, best practices, and helping those merchants understand what's happening. Now, as part of our alignment, what are we going to be up against? What are we looking at? What are the challenges we have this year and next? And these are things you've all seen, things we don't have to go into in great detail. Free systems. I think if you're up against a free system, hello rabbits, okay? It seemed to me, I think you're going to be a rabbit if you're up against a free system, because someone's going to pre-select, why should we pay if we can get this for free? Why? The answer is very simple, because of the value added and the experience and the backup that you give that goes on. Regulations cause us reduced margins. We've talked about that a little. It's difficult to grow. You win one, you lose one, back and forth. It's difficult to grow these days. The consolidation is the response to that. Payment companies offering POS, that's a significant issue. I listened to some of the sharks just now, and I think it was the first one that said, we sell only through a reseller channel. We don't compete with our resellers. Now that's a factor to ask when you're on that floor. Am I going to have to compete against you for the sale and solicitation of customers that go forward? We have a bank that bought a reseller for vertical integration that's taking place. The tablet startups are now tablet established. Demographics change of your customer, of their customers, aging resellers, hello, welcome, nice to see you all. Internet sales, which is another crazy thing in my mind. If I'm a merchant and I buy a system over the internet, and I've got about as much knowledge as how to install and maintain and secure it as, a 5-year-old, I'm out of the whole PCI network because I bought it off, you don't have to worry about it, that's their problem. You're out of it, they're out of it, God knows what's going to happen. Supplier is a competitor we spoke about. Now, as we realign, there's things that we can use that will help us in terms of our best practices. The realignment. Now, whether you're QIR certified or not, and I think eventually we all will be QIR certified, it's the education, it's the discipline, it's what we need. And as we help improve that system, and as we give our input and it's receptive, it'll become something that really is a standard to achieve. But right now, if you've looked at the QIR checklist for an installation, that last document that you go through, that you share with your end user, it says, we did this, we didn't do this, we did this, we didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. It puts it all down there, and then they sign it at the end. That document is better than any cyber insurance that you could buy. That document is going to establish, if there's ever a dispute, what you did and what you didn't do, what they agreed you should do and what they agreed you didn't have to do. We've all heard about Project Creep, where, someone comes, I want a POS system, and by the time you're done, they want 18,000 bells and whistles, but they only want to pay for 8 of them, okay? This document will help you. Whether or not you're QIR certified at this time, get a hold of that document and use it in conjunction with your installations, because that document is probably as good as you get, better than anything I could create for you, and something that's out there to exist. Now, why do I have Nathan's? Nathan's here. I saw it's so bright I can't pick him out. There he is behind the beard. I love it. I got myself a blocker. Okay? I've got a front line in front of me now for the football season. You're going to go to Nathan before you come to me, and I hope you never get to me. Okay? I want to run all the way down the field for a touchdown and retire. I want Nathan to take care of your issues because he's the expert who can do that. I don't think you appreciate just how phenomenal it is that RSPA said, hey, you know this guy Goldberg, he's been around a long time. We don't know if he knows anything, but he knows everyone, so we'll just think he's okay. But if we could get a service like that for compliance with PCI security issues, God, can we help our members? And they went out and found a highly qualified person to do that. So if you forget my name and phone number, it's okay. I'm the second defense. First defense is right there. And Nathan's a member of the team. I couldn't be more excited that I'm going to call him, okay? I can't answer a lot of these questions, but now I can call Nathan and do that. When you're realigning, you got to look at your website. Have you looked at your website lately, or is that just something you put on and did? Let me tell you what's happening with websites, because I got to give you some legal stuff now. With websites, remember the American with Disabilities Act? And we had these drive-by lawyers, okay? Drive-by lawyers would go down the street, they'd see 2 stairs in front of your establishment, they'd see no handicap parking, and they'd sue you. You know, they'd never give you notice, they never tell you, hey, why don't you put in a ramp here or help somebody to get in who's disabled or has a problem. Why don't you do that? They just sue. And why did these lawyers sue? Because the government can't enforce this law. It's just too extensive. So they put in the law that people who bring successful litigation, if you're an attorney, you get attorney's fees and costs. So it's like a welfare program. It's great. You just go out, drive down the street, find them, file suit, settle with the people, and get your attorney's fees and costs. Well, now we don't have drive-by, but we have fly-by on websites. If you have a website, it has to be accessible to disabled people. It's been found in certain jurisdictions now, and they're growing, it's a public accommodation, which means you might have to have a little chat box, you might have to have audio that can be used to hear what the words are if someone is impaired in that way, and it has to be compatible with certain things. Talk to your web service provider and see what needs to be done to bring you up to date. Because you're going to call me and say, I got this letter, they're demanding that I do A, B, and C to my website, and if I don't do it, they want $50,000. I don't want to see you do that. Cloud security. A lot of cloud security providers out on the floor, a lot of cloud security things you've heard. I think I can safely share with you, I have read more cloud security agreements than anyone in the room. I feel comfortable saying that. And I can translate it to one sentence. Each and every one of those 100-so documents I've read. You pay us, we have no responsibility. That's what they say. If it goes down, we're not responsible. If it's breached, we're not responsible. Nothing else, but you're responsible to pay us. Why do I bring that up? I bring that up because we'll get to a point coming up, but I'll touch on it now, that we have to look at our own transactional documents, and you got to go to the RSPA website and pull down some of those templates and update your documents. So the cloud security provider has disclaimed all their liability, and you're the only one in the chain of that sale that still has liability because you haven't disclaimed it. So as we get in, and you'll see on coming up, we'll talk about as-is things that we will sell. And that cyber insurance. How much is enough? You never know. Some people thought $5 million would be enough. It wasn't. Some people $10 million. But the PF Chang case was very interesting in terms of their breach. They had Chubb Insurance, and they went to Chubb and said, here, we got breached. These were our costs. This is what we had to pay out. This is what we're making our claim for. And Chubb said, time out. Our policy covers damages incurred in regard to a cyber breach. You're asking us to reimburse you for fines and penalties for failure to comply with certain rules and regulations. That's not covered. And the court agreed. Because you can insure against things, intentional things, or even in this case, unintentional things went wrong. My point with your cyber insurance policies, and that's another one I've read too many of, but those policies, you have to look at the exclusions, see what's covered and what's not so you fully understand. All cyber insurance policies are not created equal by any means at all. Now, we just touched on this a little bit, and I want to go in a little deeper on this, but we're all serving, when we heard the sharks, as software as a service, whatever it is as a service. They're all being sold that way. And the point there again is you have to update your transactional documents to reflect how you're doing business today as opposed to how you did business. Any third-party application you sell should in your transaction, must be in your transactional documentation, sold as is. Not with your guarantee, not with your assurances, but with the creator's assurances. You have to make it clear that if it's a third-party application, it's not yours, we're reselling, we'll be responsible for the configuration and putting these things together, but if that segment fails, we're not responsible for that. Because we have to, you heard the words like stickiness. Oh, one word, they say some things stay in Las Vegas. Ecosystem. Could we just leave that word here? Okay? Where else do you hear it? Okay? I don't hear it. Not even in the bathroom. I don't know what ecosystem is. Okay? But let's leave that one there. But we want to become the trusted advisors of our customers. We want to have that stickiness, and we can do that. We're not selling anymore. We're providing solutions through information, through the knowledge you'll gain on the trade show floor as to what the latest is. How good is it when you go back and say, I walked the floor, I looked at 7 or 8 applications, this I think fits best for your business. You need them to come to you and look to you for those solutions. You've heard all that. We talked about margin pressure, and let's talk a little bit about qualified personnel. I think the biggest problem we all have is getting qualified good people and retaining them. That is a significant industry issue. How do you get them? How do you keep them? How you get them, there's a million ways to do it, but how you keep them is probably even more important, and we're going to look at employees in a couple of minutes to talk about that. I want to alert you to these right to repair laws. I'm actively against them in a couple of states right now. Right to repair laws basically come out of the Apple environment because you can't buy a screen, you can't buy certain things, there's limited repair opportunities for consumers who have gone to their elected officials and said, hey, listen, I want to fix this all by myself, I can't do it. These laws say that manufacturers must make available to the public replacement parts, manuals, schematics, the whole 9 yards. The problem with that is that some of our larger institutions may use that, or even smaller, to try to put in their, as part of their own IT staff, their own repair and maintenance solutions. So right to repair laws right now, it's Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nebraska, New York, and Kansas are the states we're looking at. I'm trying to just limit it to consumer products, and that's the way it should be. It should be just consumer products because there's a lot of people affected about that. In scope, out of scope, we hear that all the time. I think best practice is applied to any scope whatsoever, regardless. What are the things in your transactional documents that I work on probably the most time and the most negotiation? They're the three things you can see up there. Liabilities, indemnification, and damage limitations. You must have these in your transactional documents. You don't want the kimono fully open that you're responsible and have extreme liability. Look at these provisions. What are you assuming in terms of liability? What are you disclaiming in terms of liability? What will you indemnify people for if things go wrong? If it's consequential damages, then it could be that the restaurant, the retail was down 2 days, they lost sales. It could be hundreds and thousands of dollars. Damage limitations, I like to see the amount they paid you in the last 6 months, year, whatever it's going to be, something that takes it down and makes it easier. We've all heard about managed services. You want to get a lesson on management? Hunter Allen was just elected chairman-elect, right? Okay. Hunter has probably the best program. He's been it the longest. Get him near the bar and talk to Hunter about it, okay? You can read all you want about managed services, but the recurring revenue, which all the sharks talked about, every one of those applications was a recurring revenue model that just keeps, you don't have to worry about the sale, what you got closed, what's in the pipeline, you can worry about them, but you get this recurring revenue going, you can obviously enhance your business, enhance what you're doing. Recurring revenue, build the menu, professional sale, technical certifications. We don't emphasize where we exceed, whether it's A+ Microsoft. Those are distinguishing factors that you can use to help you sell yourself to others. Choose your vendors carefully, customer acceptance, review what you've done with the customers. They want to know how many times you fixed it. You better tell them how many times you prevented problems with their things. Migrate in stages and communicate. So now, re-engage with our employees. It starts with applications. Laws regarding employment applications have changed significantly. Ban the box. You know what that's all about? You no longer can now ask whether at the initial employment application whether someone has been convicted of a felony or not. It's illegal. You cannot anymore ask that question on the initial application because it had been used to eliminate certain candidates. The standard now is whether or not the position relates to the crime that was committed. So, if you're hiring a salesperson and they've been convicted of fraud, I just had this question a week ago. Someone called up and said, I want to give them a second chance, the whole thing, Bob, what are my liabilities, what's going on? And I went through the whole 9 yards, about a half hour on the phone, and they really want to give this person a job. You've been convicted of fraud. And I said to him, well, here's the instances I see in your business where fraud could be committed by this person. He could do A, B, C, D, and E. And, you have the right to exclude that individual as a potential person for employment based on the fact that it was related to fraud. But let's say he had just been arrested for beating his wife. It's not related to the job, Paul. You can't exclude him for that. Maybe in Canada you can. I don't know. It gets cold up there in the winter. But, maybe that's good entertainment. But it has nothing to do with it. What else can you ask about? Gender preference? Can't ask anymore. Genetic testing, which some people do as part of their employment application, is now prohibited by law. Social Security number cannot be asked on the initial application. Cannot. That's a staged ask. As you get farther down and you're about to make a conditional offer, you can get the SS number and ask them at that point, for permission to do background checks and other things as well. So, go back, look at your application, compare it to the template online at RSPA. If you have any questions, call Nathan. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this one's for me, not for Nathan. Oh, I'm sorry, Nathan. What can I do? Okay. Job descriptions, update them. Simple. That's all I want you to think about. Employment agreements, I'm a firm believer to protect your intellectual property, and that includes your employees. I believe non-competes, you have a lot of trouble in court with. If you say, don't compete with me 2 years, 5 years in this geographic area, there's a challenge to enforce those all the time. What I'd rather see you have is a confidentiality agreement, non-solicitation. You can go out and work, just none of our customers, none of the people you work with, none of the people you were exposed to while you were here, etc. That's sufficient, it will be enforced, and it will help you. I just said, how many, don't raise your hands, how many of you came from another employer to start your current business? Okay, that's how we get started in this industry. You're in sales, you're in service, you work for another company, whatever, you do that. By the way, going back to applications, if you take in applications, you must keep all applicants for 1 year, all applications. The Department of Labor wants them for 1 year to make sure you didn't discriminate against people who came in, and they will require it. After a year, all you have to keep is the actual person that you employed, okay? So remember, keep those for 1 year. The second thing on applications I wanted to mention, and that is if you have a process where you can apply for a position online, and a lot of them say career opportunities at your website, again, that has to be accessible to people with disabilities. So if you're going to put it up there, make sure that there's a phone number, an audio, something. Call us. We'll get it. We'll take the information, whatever it's going to be. Now the cases came out. This stuff is happening. It was a food chain in the Southeast, and they had a website that gave store location, coupons, and drug prescription refills online. And it wasn't accessible to people with disabilities, and the court came down and fined them and said it was wrong. So that's a very fertile area. Keep looking at it. Do your annual reviews for your employees. I have nothing that's more difficult for me than when you call up and say, can I terminate this person? Usually it goes like this. You know, Bob, Joe and I have been thinking of terminating, this person for the last 6 months. And lo and behold, last Friday, he fell in the warehouse and broke his head wide open. Can we terminate him now? Okay? Yeah, you're laughing, but that's what make sure the file reflects what you want to do. Okay? Make sure you have good employment files and reviews that support anything. If somebody's is deficient, don't put your arm around them and say, I know you're trying, but okay. Write it up. Have them sign it. If they don't sign it, say refuse to sign it, whatever it's going to be. Career development, you'll get people that, Brad Holloway is telling me he's taking a course on cyber currency. That strikes me. That's somewhere we all might want to think going, okay? That might be something that you can help your people when they get ransomware on their systems because your antivirus and firewall failed, that you can help them get bitcoins together to pay these people, okay? You can do that. Employee dishonesty. I've had too many instances of employee dishonesty. Here are the statistics. 36 to 55 years old, 79% males, 4 years or more they've been employed, they're well respected, 42% take more than $1 million. Okay? I've had 2 in the last year. One of them was heartbreaking. Guy was making $370,000 and he stole another $125,000. I guess he wanted to be near $500,000. I don't know what the heck it was. But it just killed. It was heartbreaking. Why do people do it? But it's your most trusted people. You have to make sure that you're taking steps, putting in processes that separate the various who opens the checks, who signs the checks, who reconciles, all those things. Look at it and make sure. I've seen it twice in this industry in the last year. I don't want to see it at all next year. Criminal background checks, again, those are done after a conditional employment offer has been made. I speak to you about ransomware and malware. At 5:30 this morning, which was 7:30 in Chicago, I got a frantic email and a phone call. Somebody had just been victimized by a scam that I've seen now twice in the last week. This scam is interesting. It was an email from the president of the company to the CFO. And the email said, Ron, real name, Ron, I just negotiated a maintenance agreement with this company. We need to send them $6,900 as soon as possible. I'll do the paperwork and get you all the info. Here's the thing, here's the account, please do the wire transfer. President of the company was traveling. CFO knew it. The email is perfect. It's his email address that shows that's it. It's a total scam. The president knew nothing about it. Nothing about it. The only way they prevented it was that the CFO called the president and said, I'm out on Monday, can this wait or can I do something else? Blah, blah. He said, what are you talking about? Okay. I had the same thing in Alaska the week before. It happened. Kathy got the email and she was about to send out the money. We put it. Be very careful with these things. Make sure you alert your staff. Have procedures and policies in place. The ransomware malware just continues. What are we going to do with this? But you can be, first of all, start with your businesses. We have a member who was a victim of WannaCry and could not dispatch service, could not give any information, basically was shut down for 2.5 days while they refused to pay, but eventually decided will pay, we'll get our files released. They were fortunate, they paid the money, got their files released. But number one, check your own systems and assure that you are secure and not subject. It's not the firewall, it's not the antivirus, it's not any of those things, it's human error. There was a piece on NBC News. They were doing a piece on WannaCry and on ransomware and cybersecurity, and they had 4 editors working on the piece. And the NBC put together an email to these people that said, we're upgrading our phones. If you want a new mobile phone, just fill out this information, your number, your name, the address to where the bill goes, this information, that information. And all 4 editors who are working on the WannaCry thing filled it out and sent it back in. Every single one of them did. It's human error. This is an area where you can help your end users, help your customers understand the risk, how to protect, do a lunch and learn, do something along those lines that will help measurably. I've got less than 4 minutes to speak with you. I want to open it up. We're going to go out to the trade show floor shortly, and I can't wait to do that myself. But do we have anyone who has any questions of what's going on in the industry that I can help out with? Yes.
Hello. Sorry to say that I was a victim of that scam for $10,000.
No. In Bob's world, I have a friend that was a victim of this scam. Never do we want to get up in front of 200 people and say, I'm a fool.
I'm a fool. Anyway, there's no way to get it back, right? I mean, when it's gone, my CFO wired, it's gone, right?
The one on the CFO president,
yeah. She sent the money, I was traveling, exactly the same thing. But there's no way to get it back, right? It's pretty much.
Contact the FBI. The FBI has an investigation going. My best guess is it's coming out of Eastern Europe. My second best thought is there's no way you're going to get that back, okay?
Here's your ball.
Well, here's your cookies, but being a lawyer, I'm a little nervous throwing it that far because I'm going to hit somebody. Not bad for 70. 69, I've got a few more months. Any other questions? My insurance covers that. It's called speaker's idiocy. Yes. No, it could be. Yeah. His insurance. Check your business policy. Talk to your business broker for your insurance. It could be. You're right. That's something you look at in terms of insurance. All right. I'm around for the next couple of days. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me, and I look forward to seeing you all. Have a great convention. Get out there, let's rejoice and have a good time.